Hi, Elaine.
Hi,
So
Hala.
today is our special episode with Hala Life. And the reason I chose this topic, I remember once you told me that you are a part of a support group, talks about aging.
Yes.
So I think you're the right person to talk about, and it's going to be a journey. We'll discuss it through different angles.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is aging? As simple as it sounds.
Aging is the natural process of going through different stages of life: childhood, young adulthood, and then for people, they come to what we would say the autumn of their life.
Yeah.
And so people, this isn't exactly the same for men and women.
Okay.
Because men age as well, but culture is kind to men.
Yes.
And sometimes culture is not so kind to women's aging.
Actually, I feel it's harsh. And we feel less because of the wrinkles and the way we look and the gray hair. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, the changes happen in our body.
Well, I think the first major change is for women is menopause.
Yes.
And when women are in menopause, it changes a lot of things hormonally. We have less collagen in our skin. We have this aging process begins. The thing is that, we can go through that and fight against it tooth and nail. Mm-hmm. We can dye our hair. We can
put fillers and botox
and surgery and all kinds of things. We can do that, but in the end, aging continues.
Yeah.
So we can sort of alter some of the external things, but internally, we are still moving from one year to the next. And I think that we have choices about how we're going to actually handle the fact that it's inevitable. We're moving towards death.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to tell you that aging is not necessarily about the fear of death. Fear of death is a human thing.
Yeah.
We fear it if we're 10 or 25 or 75.
But isn't it more the older we get? It's closer.
Well, because reality is that mortality is staring older people in the face. And so, yes, they think more about death. I think more about death.
Mm-hmm.
But the fear of death is, it's something where sometimes people are afraid of the dying process, being in pain, being disabled, having very, very poor health.
Yes.
They fear that rather than death itself. And some people fear death because they fear afterlife.
Yes.
So that is something that is with all human beings, mm-hmm. their whole life. It just becomes more pronounced as you get older.
And the health issue.
Yes. So the real key to aging is not so much external things like tight skin and good hair. It actually has to do with internal health.
Which is
You know, you have to help your body. I mean, the body is aging, so it needs help. You have to exercise, you have to eat well, and this becomes very important as you get older, because you can't sort of cheat like you can when you're young.
Yeah, it will affect you.
It affects you more.
Yeah.
And health, the loss of health, is one of the hardest things that aging people face. Because poor health robs you of many, many things. It robs you of independence often.
Yeah, that's very important.
It robs you of being able to do things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And
even the feeling, you know, if you're in pain or exhausted, the feeling, I mean, emotionally, is very exhausting.
Yeah, it takes up so much room in your life. It interferes with how you relate to the world, because, you know, you might not be able to walk comfortably from here to the door.
Yes.
And so this limits so many things.
And how people look at you.
Absolutely. So internally, it's very frightening to face health issues.
Yeah.
And you know, health issues can happen to people at any time of their life.
Yes.
But when you, many aging health issues are a little more tenacious, meaning you can have things like, you know, a heart condition, or you can have arthritis, or these things
blood
that are
pressure.
pretty hard to treat.
Yeah.
And so you sometimes have to learn to live with those, which is challenging.
So what is the worst thing about aging? I know we talked about health-wise, emotionally.
Maybe it might be different for different people. Not everybody feels the same. I know for me personally that the biggest issue for me is having a purpose, having something meaningful to do, having something that makes a contribution.
Yeah.
One of the things that aging people also face is the loss of their career.
The loss of their career, yes.
So, you know, many people have had very substantial roles that they've played. They have fame, they have many, you know, they might be very well known in their field, very respected in their field. People who have not had a career have devoted their life to their family, and they've, you know, invested themselves in their family, and all that begins to fade away as you age.
Yes.
Because, you know, life moves on.
Career goes done.
Yeah.
Kids are
grown
up.
And so then what is your purpose? And what do you do with yourself? And for a lot of people, this creates depression, where they really don't know what the meaning of their life is.
So they feel lonely.
They feel useless.
They feel useless. Interesting. I remember a few years back, I asked you, what is the difficult part of aging? And you said something, it really hit me. And you said, you're invisible. And it is powerful.
Because if you no longer have a role to play in the world.
Yes.
And you mentioned, you know, then you can easily get isolated.
Yes.
You can sort of lose contact with the people that were in your field of work, you'll lose contact. Sometimes people lose contact with their children, even though their children might live 3 miles away.
Yes.
Still, so the other part is that one experiences oneself as being isolated, invisible to the world. And this is a big shock if you've...
Especially if you were active and
exactly.
Even as a housewife
Absolutely.
or a mother,
Yeah.
And then suddenly you feel your life is empty.
You really are facing into a new period of life that has to all be figured out with none of the cultural props, because there aren't, in most cultures, there are not there's not a lot of support for aging people.
I want to talk about aging for women a bit more. I think it affects us a lot because of the appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Wrinkles make people scared. Sogginess, you could see that the gravity, your body's going.
Absolutely.
And I am 57, and I still, when I entered 50s, my health issues became different.
Mm-hmm.
So, the pain in the knees and the back, and you're not as flexible as you used to be. Then you feel the sogginess coming. Let's talk a little bit more about this, that a lot of women are maybe now in their 50s or 60s. And emotionally, how do you deal with that?
Well, I think the thing is that the world and most cultures very much admire youth.
Yeah.
And so youth means energy, vitality, beauty.
In that way we are programmed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when you, so the struggle to try to stay young.
Yes.
Stay young and stay young and stay young. It's good to stay healthy. And it's good to stay active. It is impossible to stay young.
Yes. But then, I think the fear of aging because of how we've been programmed.
Yes.
And that and you know what? It could not be the beauty. I mean, does it have to be like I have to look when I was 20? I will not look like that. Is it sad? Yeah, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So how do we deal with that? I mean, the media and everything is after
youth. Yeah, I think that we have to, first of all, be very aware that we're not going to look like any advertisement, probably.
Yeah.
And we're probably not going to look like, we're not going to see ourselves very often in media, because in media, things are very well fixed up so that...
And they want young people.
Yes. And even if somebody is not so young, they're made to look as young as they possibly can be made to look.
Yes.
Which isn't what we can all do on a day-to-day basis. So the acceptance,
acceptance
that, so this is where I think it's important for aging people to really think deeply. Am I going to get involved with all of this youth thing? Or am I just going to say to myself, wait, this is a new opportunity. Once women are past menopause, especially, they are now free of child rearing. They often are they have a chance to begin a new life. They have lots of life to live. I mean, really, even you can say if you're 55 and you could easily live 40 years.
Yes.
So you better plan something.
Yes, exactly.
You know, to absolutely go like, well, now I'm old. You're going to be old for a very long time.
You know, I something we grew up with in the Arab world is like when the woman, not anymore as much, when a woman reaches 40 and 50, she's supposed to be dead. And I think it's changing, and I hope it will be changing fast, that no, it's the beginning. I mean, it's one of the beginnings.
Yes, it's one of the beginnings. I mean, true enough, several generations ago, people's lifespan was far shorter than it is now.
That's
And I don't know the statistics in the Arab world about longevity, but I know that now, where I'm from, it's basically that women live, their lifespan is about 90. It's 90 years old.
Yeah, me too.
One generation ago, that was 85. So it's growing by 5 years every generation.
Yeah, I remember growing up hearing women die when they just deliver, you know, in delivery or very young.
Yes.
And people didn't live as much.
No. So now we really have to face aging because there's a lot of it.
Yes.
And really, many times we have practically as much life ahead of us after menopause as we had before menopause. So it's very important for people to say, and what will I do with that?
I think this is very important to say, what will I do from now?
Yeah. And, you know, so to me, one has to, I know that I was very lazy about exercise and even good eating when I was young because I could
get away with it.
I could get away with it. And I didn't, you know, think much about it. Now I have to think about it quite seriously because I have to fight off arthritis, and good exercise does that for me. Doesn't always do it for everybody, but it does it for me at this moment. And I know, and so I no longer can just say, well, if I feel like it, I'll do it. No, I must do it. Then I think that, you know, we get to, because we no longer have as many responsibilities to other people, we're not, we don't have to, you know, be home to cook dinner for children. We have much more freedom, less responsibility. So if we see it as that, then we also need to say, and I can fill that with many things.
Hobbies. Friends.
And I think that it's important to try lots of hobbies to find something that you fall in love with.
Okay.
Because, you know, a hobby when you're 30 is just something you do a little bit in your spare time. A hobby when you're older is something that you're going to do a lot of, a lot. So you better like it a lot.
Yes.
And so like my hobby is going to university.
Wow.
I do that. I love learning and I love studying and I like the whole atmosphere of a university. I like being around young people. And so my hobby is, and then I study this and I study that. And at the moment I'm studying writing.
Yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, maybe if I am finished studying, maybe I've found my passion. Maybe I can write.
Wow.
So, you know, we can't just take up a little hobby like, and I'm not going to say anything. I was going to say like knitting, but let's face it, somebody that's a really, really, really talented knitter could turn that into an amazing thing, an amazing art form. And so we have to search hard for this.
I want to go back. We need to change the way we look at aging. And I want to stress on that, because there is no point of telling somebody, find a hobby, find a purpose, and they think, well, I'm old now. We have this in Arabic saying, راحت علي, خلاص, it's over now. I raised my children. I got married. I raised my children. I did work maybe. That's it. This is my life. This is where I think, and I'm talking more as an Arab woman, that we need to change that mentality.
Because the idea that something is finished, it's not finished. Life is not finished sometimes for 25 or 30 years. So it's a long way from finished. And I think that you're right. It's about saying, this isn't the end. It's actually the beginning of something.
Yes.
Of a stage. Just like, in the stage of adolescence, maybe lasts from 13 to 20.
Yes.
Well, that's only a few years. Aging lasts a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
So we have to take it on as a stage of life that we can make choices in. And
different choices.
Different choices. Even though not everybody is going to ease. Okay, so maybe they're not going to find a hobby. But another thing that older people can do is they have a lot of experience in life, and they have sometimes some wisdom, and they can mentor somebody. They can offer themselves as
to help
somebody. Not to mother them, not to
just to guide them,
but to be there to try to support someone else.
Yes.
The other thing they can do is that they can, and I think this is a very important part of aging, is find a group of people who also want to make the most of their life.
Yeah, this is very important. This part, you cannot be with friends or a group that they will put you down and they will be the same thing. You need somebody to boost you.
Yes. And so, the group of women that I belong to, we do many different kinds of things together to support each other and to create a kind of safety net a little bit.
Tell me, what do you discuss?
What do we discuss together?
In this support group?
We discuss everything from cosmetic surgery.
Okay.
To what place do men play in our life now?
Okay.
Some people are still married. Many are widowed.
Yes.
So many women are alone.
Yes.
Many women are alone.
And maybe how to deal with the children or their.
And we talk about adult children.
Yes.
And this very new way of having to be a parent.
A new role.
A new role for sure.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. But when you finish about the group, I want to talk about how to deal with, your children, and they're not anymore kids.
That's right.
So anything else do you discuss in the group?
Actually, we discuss politics. We discuss books that we read. We discuss.
Do you discuss that when you were young,
Sometimes we do.
the grief of losing your youth?
Yes. And sometimes we plainly reminisce about.
What's that?
Reminisce is we recall, we tell stories about our past, and we share with each other things that maybe are quite. Sometimes we've had similar experiences. Sometimes we've had very different experiences. And we also try to be there when people have crisis. You know, when they have to have surgery or they have to face a treatment.
Okay.
We try to make sure that that person is not isolated.
So it's like really a support group.
Yeah, it's a support group.
Okay, so now I want to talk to a very important part. How do you deal while your kids are gone or they have their lives? Not anymore, come on, I'll feed you, I'll dress you, I'll take you here, you listen to what I say. Now they are men or women and they have their own life and they have their own friends, and you are only a part. You're not everything.
No, for sure, for sure. And I think that this is not a sort of easy black and white thing. It takes a bit of practice to figure out how to be a parent to an adult child, and strangely enough, how to ask your child for help.
Yeah.
There are people who need help from their children. It's a very strange position to be in, is to have to ask your children.
Because
for help.
always you are the one
It's usually going the other direction. And I think that, you know, when you're a mother to a 5-year-old, you're a certain kind of mother. If you're a 15-year-old, you're another kind of mother. And most people are, you know, there might be a better parent to a young child or a teenage child. I mean, people have their skills in the places that are not that easy. But the really tricky part is how to be a parent to an adult.
Oh yeah, telling me about it, you know, to deal with 5 men.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have your own children. Let's talk more about this. How do you deal with it?
I think mostly it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
And again, as a parent, you have to really figure out where the boundaries are. Sometimes we laugh and say, you know, I want my children to come to me if they need something, because that part of me still wants to be needed and useful. But I have to remember that they will pick and choose.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to stand back far enough to say, okay, they pick and choose, and not be offended.
And not to be obsessed that they have to do this with me and they have to be
absolutely.
mine.
Yeah.
Because
they have their own life.
They have their own life.
And they need their own life.
And they have their friends.
And strangely enough, I have to have my own life.
Yes.
I have my own friends.
This is, I find that when people come to me, they struggle that their kids are away from them and they have their lives, and she cannot deal with it. She cannot deal that they are in their lives, and she kept saying, but I am their mother. They have to do this and they have to do that.
Well, I think that if you've identified yourself primarily and nearly only as a mother, it's very difficult to say to allow your child to become an adult. So, you know, when a mother is telling a 40-year-old son, you must do this, you must do that, you must do something else, that's really her saying, you still have to be 15.
Or 5.
Or 5. And generally speaking, that person might shake their head and say, yes, mama, yes, mama. But in the end, they do it reluctantly or maybe not at all.
Mm.
And then that leads to a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
Because the mother won't let the person grow up.
So, yeah, the mother will not let their children to grow up.
Because then
in her mind.
Because then who is she if she's not a mother?
This is an important point which I kept thinking about it. Because this person, this human, she just took one role.
Mm-hmm.
While we are so many roles,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, I'm a person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe with no one but myself, and do things. When I just want to be a mother and that role is changed, then my life is gone.
Yeah. And then the struggle to, to keep identifying all the time as I'm a mother, I'm a mother. Yes, of course you are a mother. I'm a mother, you're a mother. But we still have to let go of
many things.
Yeah. And we have to let go of our children. And part of letting go is to fill that vacuum.
Yeah.
Put something else in. Do something else. And this is why we have to find different meaning than just being a mother. It's not that just being a mother is in any way wrong, but it cannot.
It will exhaust the person, and you will feel a lot. She will be disappointed,
Yeah.
and sad,
Yeah.
and lonely.
Exactly, because she's looking to one person to be her support system, and that's her child.
And if it's gone, you're nothing. So she's only defined by her children.
Yeah. So, the more we can have a larger self than just being a mother, and, and we have interests in other people, other women in our life, then we're not so irritated that our children have got their own lives. We're proud of them. We feel that they're doing what they need to in their own lives. Now, there's the other side of it, though, where as people age, as I said before, sometimes they feel they need something, they need actual help from their children.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to mother their children.
Yes.
They just need help.
Help. Yes.
Like, I'll give you an example that, I'm 77 and I'm not that good on technology.
Yes.
I need to ask my son so many times. And he's pretty patient, but, and I try hard to learn so that I don't have to ask him the same thing 6 times. Some older people start to become very dependent. They don't want to learn new things. They want somebody else to
do everything for them.
Okay, that's their choice. But you know that eventually people will get impatient because they'll told you 6 times how to do something, technology, and you still don't get it, and that gets them irritated. So there's this line. Also, some older people actually need people to drive them somewhere. They don't feel comfortable anymore driving themselves. Mm-hmm. They need somebody to go to the doctor with them because they don't trust that they actually hear
they can
correctly
absorb,
what's being told to them. These are all the things that start to happen where the person, and it's not easy for people who have been independent all their life to ask for help. So
I find it very difficult to ask.
Absolutely. So sometimes older people are not very elegant about how they ask for help. And they expect their children to read their minds.
Yeah.
And children seldom do get that right.
Nope.
As hard as no one gets anybody.
Yeah.
And no one can read anyone's mind. So again, the conflicts come because the parent wants the child to somehow automatically know what they need without the parent having
Yeah.
to ask. So all that's very tricky.
I want to talk about my generation, your generation. We are the generation with no technology, hardly any. I remember writing letters, going for a month, coming reply.
Mm-hmm.
The house, the old phone, which is the numbers that you have
Yes.
to dial. That was like, because my father was, well off and he was a trader. So we had TV and we had these phones. But then there's a huge jump between my generation, like me and my mother, maybe not as much, but me and my kids, huge jump, because the technology and internet has gone everything from a month waiting for a letter to 5 seconds.
Yes.
And this is not 1 day, 2 days, 5 seconds, not even 5 minutes. How do you deal with this? I mean, for people, I think we were privileged to live both lives.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it is very scary for older people to see this fast changes and everything, and kids are not patient, or they are so good at technology.
Well, sometimes I think older people they say a lot about, the good old days.
Yes.
And they reminisce and they tell stories as if the past was better. But the point is that,
We forget.
Yeah, we forgot. The past has good things and bad things, and our present right now has good things and bad things.
Mm.
But we have to, the question is, there's a choice. When you're older, you can say, I'm going to try my best to keep going with what is present right now. I will try to figure out the remote on the TV. I will try to figure out
the
new phone and the whole thing like that.
Media.
I will try, or I will give up. And to give up is to divorce yourself from your life, because whether you like it or you don't like it, you have to be able to use a bank machine to get money.
Yeah.
You have to be able to use the phone enough to, keep in contact with your family.
And the
your kids
technology and the
Exactly.
social media and the internet.
So do you have to do it at the level that young people do? I think that's a choice. You don't have to maybe do it to that level, but you have to know what's happening. You have to know what's happening. And one of the most joyful thing for me is my 11-year-old teaches me, granddaughter teaches me something in technology pretty well every week.
Wow.
And she's more patient, confused by the fact that I don't
How would she not know?
Yeah. But it's actually a way to relate to my grandchild. If I refuse to look at technology, what am I going to have in common with this child? What am I going
And with the world.
Yeah.
For me, my children, especially Anas, taught me, a lot. It was first the Twitter and first the Facebook, then Twitter, then Instagram, then Snapchat, and all that. The other extreme is these women that they're aging, all they do, all day long, WhatsApp and social media. That's another giving up from life. going and bearing yourself into the
Yeah.
new technology, which is another extreme.
Because for all that the social media has some very positive things, it's not going to be there if you are coming home from a treatment and need a friend who comes over and says, I'm making you tea, and I've brought you a casserole for dinner, so that you don't have to think about cooking. Social media cannot replace that.
You mean the connection between
right.
people?
The true connection.
But then they bury themselves in this social media. This is another section of aging people.
Yeah, and then you say you ask yourself, or you'd have to ask yourself, or why are they doing this? Why?
They're bored. And they're lonely.
And though that might help them a little bit not be bored and lonely,
Yeah.
ultimately, to go out and help somebody,
or be with your friends, or go and exercise,
create a friendship, go to the gym, do what ultimately all of those would pay off in a better way from boredom and from isolation.
Because I noticed some of these women that they're aging and they have one thing. They took away all the other things in life and they buried themselves extremely in social media. Extremely. Which is, I'm not have anything in life because I'm bored. My kids grown up. I'm lonely. And social media is very entertaining. But it has a lot of gossip and it has a lot of rumors and it makes you go, what this person did in this page and what did she say and why, that's another thing.
I think that a lot of people in my generation watch entirely too much television.
Yeah.
Entirely, it's just there all the time,
Yes.
as company. And social media is also company.
Company. It's one kind of company.
Yeah. But this is why it's, if we leave making good support groups, having meaning in our life, if we leave it too late, we have no tools to build up what we need to build up. So it's, even before a person is going into menopause or into aging, remember, it's always important to build the skills of building support groups,
So
having
invest.
a group of friends. Already start to search for things that you get joy out of, hobbies that actually are meaningful. Already start looking to see who you can help and how you can mentor. Because then you go into old age and you have
the tools.
You have all the skills in place.
So explore yourself.
Yeah. And build up your life so that you're not as vulnerable to just doing one thing, being a mother, and then going into being older and strictly trying to entertain yourself all the time. One of the things that my support group talks about a lot is that, one can spend their life just entertaining themselves, going on a trip, going to the theater, having dinner in restaurants. But does this really add up to meaning? Does this add up to having a purpose?
So again, what you're saying, it's very good to have a circle of friends and have activities, but add some purpose in your life.
Yeah.
Even if you think I'm too old now, you can do different things.
who's too old? I mean, if you are a 93-year-old and you can offer some sort of guidance to somebody who's 25.
Imagine.
It doesn't matter that, it matters that you are willing to give that 25-year-old your time, your experience, and sincerely try to hear what they're grappling with. If you're just
Imagine
gonna,
how much they will benefit from you.
if you're just going to tell them you must do this, 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 and this, well, they won't listen to you in this first place. But if you truly are interested in what they face in life, you do have something that you can tell them. And meantime, they're giving you an entire exposure to what is actually the world is really, what's really going on in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be even strangers if she feels shy. It could be family members.
Of course, it can be a grandchild, a niece, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is. And I think that there's quite a lot of research that says that older people who do things like mentor can experience their life as very, very fulfilling. Older people who get purpose in their life and aren't isolated and do the best they can with their health are actually happy as anything.
Yes, I can imagine.
It's not an unhappy time. It doesn't have to be an unhappy time.
That's the thing. It doesn't have to be an unhappy time.
No.
As Elaine, what do you fear most?
About aging? I think that I feel very, very, very lucky because, you know, when we do things like this, it's fun, and I hope that it has some purpose
And help.
that it'll help someone. So, you know, not everyone has the privilege that I have to, you know, have a friend like you and things like that. But we often have a lot more to give than we think we do. And we have a lot more to give than just being a parent. I think that often older women believe that they're invisible, believe that they're useless, that they're not useful. They believe that. And they have to, the most important part is to go like, no, that's nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. I can be useful if I choose to, and I can be, I have a place to be, and I'm not invisible. My skin isn't as good as it was, but so what?
So what, yes. So it should not be the main focus, my skin and my wrinkles and my body, but it has to be a bigger picture.
I think that very often when we first go into the aging stage, we are very concerned about how we look physically, whether we still look youthful, things like that. But, you know, when you come to my stage of life, it's inevitable that you have to come to accept that wrinkles are not the worst thing that can happen in life.
Yeah.
There's a lot worse things that can happen.
Yes.
And that loss, that is a loss, but it's nothing compared to the other kinds of losses. And I think this is a part of aging that's very important to talk about, is that aging has a lot of losses involved.
Yes.
We often lose friends to death. Many people lose their spouse.
Yes.
We lose our children as
Sometimes.
children.
Yes.
We lose our careers. Lots of loss in old
Health.
age. Yeah, and some health. So all of that loss actually is part of how aging people become probably a little more wise at life, because they know they have to accept
a lot of losses.
Yeah, you have to accept a lot of losses and go on and still find ways to make yourself happy, useful,
Have
and
purpose.
many people do get completely bogged down with the losses. They are overwhelmed with the losses. And so we have to know that to some extent there's a grieving process to all of it.
So acceptance.
Yes. And acceptance, actually, I was talking to a therapist the other day who was telling me that a psychologist has decided that there's another stage to grief.
Okay.
And that the final stage of grief is not acceptance. Acceptance has to come, but the final stage is to make meaning from the loss. And but what this means is that we have to find, say for instance, I'll give you an example, that if you lose your partner, and then you can make meaning from that by creating a legacy for that person. That legacy might be that you create a great big photo album, or that you write a book about their life, or whatever it is. But that if you can find some meaning, and if you can turn the loss into something that is positive, you've used grief to live.
Wow. So acceptance, using your grief of loss of youth, making life more interesting in different way, creating a different life.
Creating a different life.
And different mentality.
Thinking deeply about the fact that we're very privileged to live long lives now. This wasn't 3 generations ago. You and I would probably not be talking because I wouldn't be here.
And maybe, me too. And people knows, died in 50s.
Yeah, exactly. And so
it's an advantage.
So we have a privilege now of long life, but it's also a responsibility, because you have to do something with it.
And help others. And
it's an opportunity to help others, because you're not busy doing the things that all people have to do when they're adults. You're finished with having to make money, you're finished with having to raise kids, you're finished with lots of things. So now you have lots of free time to do something more in the world.
We have 2 minutes. What do you want to say to the young people and then the older people?
I would say to young people to look at aging not as something to fear at all, but as just a stage of life, and to try to understand a little bit what that age of life, how that age of life is different than your middle adult years.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to young people.
And invest in them yourself, so when you get older.
That's right. And invest in yourself, because then aging is less problematic because you have skills.
Yes.
That you can apply.
And health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
to aging people, which they are already old.
I think that I would say to people, if you feel unhappy, if you feel bored, if you feel not useful
or lonely,
it is never too late to do something about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you, Elaine. You always inspire me to do more and help me to be a better person and prepare for my old age. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hala.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.